want to start the show by doing this. I don't think I can pull it off, and I certainly can't while the camera's not on me. You'd think by now I'd have worked that out. It's been a long time in this business, but you have to make sure there's an actual camera pointing at you before you do visual jokes.
Yeah.
Darren Leslie and Sanderson, lovely to see you both. And now we can all see you, which is even better. Righty though, we're sort of cheering you up a little bit because
I'm not. I'm buzzing. I'm on this show today.
But the 100% runs over.
Yeah, and Man United, in the way they played, I thought we played pretty well. I thought, like Mikel said, that there's some discipline and some bravery that they didn't show. I thought like we controlled the game for long periods, but in the moments that really mattered, especially for United, with Eriksen playing like he was in that dropping that 6, and then Fernandes being, they really punished us in the moments, and I didn't think we were brave enough passing through lines and getting at them, but I thought that the way we went and attacked the game, obviously got that goal disallowed, rightly so, it was a foul. I was quite impressed with that because we went there and it's the best we've played there for a while in actually going to try and do something. So it wasn't as bad as people would think, but like the record, everybody was going on about the record, which is something that I wouldn't say I'm delighted
I heard
it's gone.
somebody asking, we'll talk more about Arsenal in a minute, but I heard somebody early on talking about whether or not we can start to think of this team as potentially the next Invincibles at some stage. And it just seemed there were people getting carried. You weren't one of them, but there were people getting carried away.
That, though, realistically, they progressed.
Yeah.
You can't deny that.
There's no way that this team hasn't got some. And that's what I'm saying. Those are the things that people need to just calm down on, because this team's very young still, and they're still learning. They'll learn a lot from yesterday's game.
Talking about progression and a plan and a project and a way of play, that seems to be something that Manchester United have found under Erik ten Hag. Apart from even the result, there seems to be a system in place.
Absolutely, and I think if you'd have told me, Kelly, I saw you after the Brentford game, I was at that game and I literally wanted to leave at half-time. We were that bad. And I think if you'd have told me we would have beaten Arsenal and Liverpool after that game, I would have said, what planet are you on? We looked like I was struggling to remember if we were going to even get 3 points on the ball throughout the season, but it's been a quick turnaround. I'm not getting carried away. You know, I'm glad that we're winning games. I don't think we're playing that well. I thought Arsenal played well yesterday, and when Saka scored, I think the momentum was swaying in that way. But I think we're winning games and not playing that well, and you can't ask for much more than that. And I'm delighted I'm on with you today after we beat you.
They're a counter-attacking side. He's recognised that for me, Darren. When you see how they play, you know, I think as time goes by, Eriksen will control more games, and Man United will control more games. But in the moment, it's perfect, especially with Rashford in that kind of form. It's a perfect way to play, and they caught us perfectly.
And I'm just interested in the sort of progress under Ten Hag, because it was a great pre-season, and we mustn't read things into pre-season, but there was plenty of time for him to, what looked like successfully, put his plans into action. Then those 2 games at the start of the season, which were like a ice bath for Manchester United. Since then, it's 4 wins on the spin. And as Leanne said, while they haven't quite hit the heights in terms of performance, there's been progress, steady progress in terms of performance.
I think largely because they're doing the basics now. They are going out there and they're putting in a shift. I think he's taken the decisions he should have taken before the season began. Maguire should have been out of the side. Ronaldo should have been out of the side. Ronaldo should have been out of the club, in my opinion. I just think he's more youthful, more energetic lineup.
You're a brave man saying that in front of Leanne.
I know she disagrees, but I was reading Wayne Rooney a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that if you're United, you've got to be like some of the other sides in the top 6, which is you need more legs, you need more youth, you need more energy, and they are all of the attributes that you would basically label at the United side from yesterday. It was a much more energetic performance. It wasn't a team performance structured around trying to find one man. There were lots of different points of attack. So many people worried about stopping Anthony, so they couldn't stop Rashford. If you stop Rashford, you've got Sancho. That's Manchester United. It should not be all geared around one man. I don't think you can get carried away. In fact, you can get excited and optimistic about yesterday, because you've still got Casemiro to come into that midfield, a world-class talent who is going to read the game superbly well and bring his experience into it. But in general terms, it's very, very promising. And just one other thing, I mean, I know a lot of my colleagues in the media, they looked at the Brentford game, they looked at the Brighton game, and they thought, this is not going to work, even that early. But what he's shown is he's got right back to basics. And when people question him, bringing the players in and saying, you're going to run the amount that Brighton ran more than you, some people say, well, what's he doing? But it turned out to be the right thing because he's got them back to basics and doing the simple things very effectively.
I agree with that. I think the biggest catalyst for me, I mean, you know, I'm Ronaldo's biggest fan, but I just want us to win games ultimately. But I think Harry Maguire not playing, I think has been a major catalyst. I think, you know, when you're a player in your team that's not playing well, and if you're not playing, you then question, how can I not be playing if he's playing? You know, you're only as bad as your worst player. So now that Martinez is in there with Varane, they look like, you know, almost like Bonucci and Chiellini. When they put in a tackle, they're hitting each other, they have that fight. And I agree with Darren, you know, I've always been taught, my dad always said, you might not have your best game every game, but at least compete. And we wasn't doing that at Brentford. We wasn't doing that against Brighton. And like I said, I'm not getting carried away, but a win's a win, and now we've beaten Arsenal. And they're in a good place, Arsenal. I'll take that from yesterday.
I mean, it's interesting that you raised that point about a team's only ever as bad as their worst player, but they're very rarely as good as their best player. It tends to kind of bottom out rather than top out in terms of football. But just with Maguire and with Ronaldo, he's taken the noise away. He's taken away the players around whom there is the biggest kind of sideshow. And now it's just about the players who put in the shifts on the pitch, and everything else sort of fades away. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I love Ronaldo. I think I was at Leicester away midweek, and all the fans still love him. And I think when he came on in that game, he didn't look confident. You know, he played the ball. Did you see the one when he put it across the box to Eriksen, when he should have probably... I've seen Ronaldo hit that out of his feet, put it top corner. But ultimately, they do say, you know, no player is bigger than the club. Yeah. And I think Ten Hag has shown that. And I think as long as Manchester United keep winning, then that question will not be asked. But for me, I've questioned Rashford a lot of times this season and in the past. We all have been Manchester United fans, but he doesn't seem to produce consistently. Against Liverpool, decent game yesterday, he did well, but we need that from him. If he's going to be leading the line, we need him to do that, because Anthony, he's a wide player. He's not going to lead the line. Yeah, he can play there, but ultimately, I think Casemiro has to come back into the team as well and start.
Just in terms of that front line, I mean, if you look at Rashford, I was delighted for him for the 2 goals yesterday, because I think a lot of people wrote him off very prematurely. And he's only 24 years of age. There is so much more to come from him. But he was being sucked down by the malaise that kind of enveloped the entire club. 4 goals for him last season, 3 goals so far and 4 assists, I think it is, in so far, 6 games. And he looks, I can't speak to this, you guys can speak far better to this, but he looks like the confidence is coming back into his game again.
But he's beating players, he's trying to take players on, whereas before, I feel like he was just kind of like passing it off to the side. But you're right, which player was thriving at Manchester United last season and at the beginning of this year?
I think when
nobody.
but when you looked at Rashford, he continues to do what he tries. He tries to get the ball, he tries to run at people. When he's at his best, is like when we saw him score the 2 goals, when he's got space to run into it and he's running onto it. The thing what Man United fans got frustrated with is that it weren't going well for the whole team, and he was still trying to do stuff, losing the ball, and then they'll moan and groan about the fact that he's still trying to do what he does. They weren't getting themselves in positions where Rashford can run onto things like we saw him run onto it yesterday, because now they've got someone who can control it and pass really effectively into Bruno. Then Bruno's got time. Then Rashford is unstoppable coming in like that. That's why when I was delighted for him when he scored against Liverpool, because it's a big game against Liverpool. If he misses that, then the groans will come back. And the fact that he scored that, and then this game again against Arsenal, went through with the whole stadium, the whole world watching probably that game, going Man United live like that, and he finished them. And what it says to me is that he's not a million miles away from where he needs to be. But once the team improves with him, he'll only get better, because his confidence is starting to come back.
But he's almost a symptom, isn't he, as you said, of the sort of negativity that was around Manchester United. Yeah. You saw that in the Brentford game, to hark back to that one, because that was a real low point. It felt like you concede 1 goal, it comes from a De Gea error, and everybody's heads drop. And when you're a young, relatively inexperience. He's been playing for a while, but when you're a young player, that can affect you a little bit more. But someone like Casemiro coming in, as you said, you want him in there regularly starting for Manchester United. What do you think he gives them that they don't have now?
The quality. I think McTominay has stepped up in the last 3 or 4 games since almost like Casemiro came in. But I was at the game on Thursday night against Leicester. He came on and pinged the ball on a dime, 60 yards out to the left-hand side. You know, so those are the types of qualities we need. Fred, for me, and McTominay are not at that standard of Manchester United. Yes, they can do a job, but not of the quality of Casemiro. So I can understand why Ten Hag, how do you change a team that's winning? You don't really do that, do you? But hopefully, for us to progress forward, I think Casemiro has to start. He's not been brought in to be a bench player, but maybe we need to be a little bit more patient. But when he's in there, I think, it frees up Eriksen, depending on who's going to come out the lineup. But McTominay looks like he'll be the one that will drop out. But Bruno, yesterday, the assist for the goal outside of the foot, straight down the middle, that's exactly what we've been missing. Yeah,
it's sort of giving players the chance to do what they're best at and to put them in their most comfortable positions once they get the front line sorted out with where, if Anthony's going to be out wide and Rashford's going to be through the middle. But again, we talk about this a lot when players come in. I think Manchester United hoped that Varane might give them something of that as well last season. A serial winner who comes in and Ronaldo, I think there was a lot of talk about whether his way of living off the pitch in terms of what he eats, how he looks after himself, how he trains, whether that would have a knock-on effect. But it doesn't seem to have given them that lift in the way that we've seen other players do it. I
think the difference with Casemiro is that he comes into an area of the park where, for example, he plays with Fred for the national side. I think he's in an area of the park where he can direct operations. I think the area of the park where Ronaldo plays requires a lot more energy. And I think the fluidity of the United side when the younger players play is in stark contrast to the one-dimensional way they play when Ronaldo plays up front. We know he's the most clinical finisher in world football. We know all about his legendary status. But if you look at all of the other teams in the top six, there's a dynamism about the way they play in that final third that United just don't have when Ronaldo plays.
And the thing with Ronaldo and the way they played yesterday against us, that doesn't happen if Ronaldo's playing, because you need to be in control of the game, be able to move, so then Ronaldo can make his move like that. He's not going to blast from the halfway line like Rashford and go and score that goal. And I think that what else I saw, which was quite noticeable for me, is that when he came on, he does look apprehensive now, because what he's seeing is a team that's improving without him. And so then, I saw him kick one over the bar. With the cross, and he was upset with himself when someone didn't square it. The thing is that I think that United now, and the players and the way they're probably in training now, he's no longer that focal point for now. Yes. They can now focus on, we know what we're doing now. Sooner Casemiro gets in there, for me, the better, because I think that frees up Eriksen and in turn frees up Fernando.
It pains me about Ronaldo, though, because for me, obviously we brought Ronaldo back. I'm glad he didn't go to City, and I agree with you about the high press and stuff, but if Rashford can produce like he did yesterday, then we'll be okay. But on Thursday at Leicester, he was poor.
Yeah, but the thing is, Leanne, you're going to get more out of someone like Rashford with the team playing a more constructive style of football. The way they're playing, where it's going to be going through, they're going to control it more, then he's going to be able to time his run and do what he's doing. Ronaldo can't be questioned in respects of the goals, especially last season, and what he's capable of, but he's no longer that kind of player. He's not in that place. And Man United are now moving somewhere where if Rashford, and of course consistency is something that has to come alongside what he's doing now, but that will come with confidence in the team and with them knowing that they're playing towards him now because he's more potent.
If we keep winning, then no one's going to have a problem, are they?
Yeah, and just on the back of what Rai was saying, I think if you look at Rashford now, I agree entirely with that idea that if Bruno Fernandes plays that ball through the middle onto Ronaldo, he is not going to split away from the last defender like Rashford was able to, just because his legs won't carry him now like Rashford's would. But also there was a moment for me when Anthony scored, and it was almost like a symbolic changing of the guard. I'm not saying that Anthony's going to get any win near the levels of Ronaldo at all, because we know that's not going to be the case. But the camera cut to Ronaldo and he's clapping above his head. And what you saw in Anthony is a crowd pleaser, all the tricks and the flicks, just like Ronaldo had when he first arrived. And some people got a bit frustrated with him, but Anthony wants to thrill the crowd. He wants to score goals and he wants to be that serial thriller, but he has that energy about him that Ronaldo simply doesn't have. In some ways, it's kind of sad to see the dying of that particular light, because, he has been a wonderful player for so long, but I just think there is so much energy about this team, this United. The senior players that have come, like Varane and Casemiro, who are winners, they're in areas of the park where they can affect the
Varane's been good this year.
And
Varane
Eriksen
last
as well.
year when he came in was not good.
He wasn't but
good,
the
but this
entire
year,
side was poor.
He's
And
been good.
That's the general
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
The side now, the confidence is... It's almost like you can feel the pulse of United now. And I think gradually, as the games go on, there'll be games where they'll stink the place out still, but they might grind out a 1-0 win, 2-0 win, but then they'll start to get the,
So do you think Cristiano needs to get used to being a 20-minute player then off the bench?
So.
It's also true that last season, although he got a lot of goals and a lot of significant goals as well, not just, a couple at the end of
winners.
like a 6-0 win or something.
Winners, yeah.
He got significant goals, but the overall goals for Manchester United were down on the previous season.
Yeah.
So he wasn't just filling a gap there. It was sacrificing goals elsewhere. But I'm really interested, just before we move away from him and start talking a bit more about Arsenal, I'm really interested in this idea of him as a sort of chastened figure, because I wonder how much, as somebody who's very much been seen as a figure who likes to bend the world to his will. If it isn't happening the way he wants it to, he will make it happen and force that to happen. And I wonder if, when he's tried to get away in this transfer window and it hasn't come off for him, I wonder if maybe there's something going on with him where he's starting to realise maybe what a couple of people were saying through last season, which is it has to come to an end sometime.
The thing is, when you say that, Kels, what it makes me think is that with Ten Hag coming, we don't know what's been happening behind the scenes, how Ten Hag's trying to get things going, because we're starting to see it now. And remember, he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave. Maybe with his experience and what he knows, he's seen the progression of this team and he doesn't see himself in it. So what he wants to do is he wants to leave before it gets to a place where it's, this is pretty good. We don't really need him. He wanted to leave probably when everybody's thinking, how can we get rid of him now? So as then he would still leave with the big grandeur. But at the moment, if he leaves now, Man United fans will say, yeah, maybe it's right for you to leave.
It's a long season, though.
And I think there's a lot of ego stuff to go in.
It's a long season, though, righty. It's a long season, and Cristiano Ronaldo is a serial winner. So for me, I think, do you think he goes in January then?
I think he'll go at the first opportunity.
Absolutely.
He can go. He is a serial winner, but I think he quite likes to be a serial hero. And the problem is now he can't be in this team because it's the only teams in this very competitive top 6 that will succeed are teams, not one person, which is why even though Harry Kane scores lots of goals, Son will start to explode, for example, at Spurs, and Richarlison will score goals, and City have got Haaland, but they scored 96 goals without Haaland last season, so they're a team.
If they scored at their shot conversion rate from last season, the shot conversion rate that they have this season with Haaland in the team, if they scored at that rate last season, they'd have got 153 goals.
There's no point in anyone else turning up.
I know it's an aside, but it's a good one, isn't it? It's
Brilliant aside.
We'll get to that. Just one more point on Ronaldo. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Aubameyang at Arsenal, because when Arteta said you got to go, even I was on here saying, look, when you do that, you've got to win.
Absolutely.
You've got to succeed. You can't get it wrong. And when they didn't get into the top 4, he took a lot of heat.
Yeah.
But the club stood by him. And you look at this side now, and it's a more energised side. It works harder, and it is more of a team. And I think the key with Ten Hag and the secret to this particular success in terms of the power shift that you're describing between Ronaldo bending everyone to his will and Ten Hag now starting to assert his control is the club have clearly said to him, you're our man.
Yeah.
And if you drop Ronaldo and he's a problem, that's not something that's going to reflect.
Giving him 85 million to buy Anthony makes us know that he's 100% their man. Because, for him to score, for Ronaldo to be on the bench, seeing the new guys scoring, seeing Man United starting to do their stuff without him, it's very difficult when you're that player who's the main guy. I remember being at Arsenal when Anelka's coming, seeing Anelka emerge in that, you cannot help but feel like this guy's it's starting to come to the end.
How soon did you think that? How soon did you think that?
I think the second training session when I saw him blast through 4 of them, I said, wow, I just felt like I lost half a yard of pace. But you feel that, and you feel like something's coming to an end. And I feel like maybe that's what's happening with Cristiano Ronaldo. You know something? I said on the show, Kelsey, I don't want to see the Liverpool and Man United as well languishing, not doing well, because the league's better when they are doing well. Everything raises up when Man United are doing now. Look at it already now. Everything's changing because Man United are doing well. I don't mind that, because everybody else, we're going to have to liven up. everybody has to liven up. That's what you want to do.
If Cristiano's watching, I still love him. I still think he has a lot to offer Manchester United, not necessarily from the start potentially, but I think it's a long season. I really do. And I hope that Man United keep winning in the way that they do. But for me, you know, Martial had a good pre-season. He's always injured. The depth that we have, we just don't have that depth for me to be able to get rid of someone like Ronaldo, but I could be wrong. I'm not saying his legs are the same as it was 10 years ago, but it's still Cristiano Ronaldo, and I'm just mindful of, you know, his mindset and his mentality, for me, is on a completely different level. And when people are focusing him after the game, saying he's not clapping the away fans and he's not doing this, I don't really care. If he's playing well, I don't care if he comes and claps me or not. People have different opinions of him, but I think that's why he's been one of the greatest footballers ever in this game, because of his mentality. And if the rest of them don't want to come on board with him wanting to be a winner and wanting to do more, then that's up to them.
Lee, that's not... Everybody will, especially when you go to Man United, everybody will want to be. He'll be somebody that...
But I don't think that's the case, right, E?
Yeah, but
I don't think last season they wanted... I don't think they had enough winners in the changing room.
They were all over the place. They were all over the place. The whole place is all over the place.
And he was the only one performing and scoring goals. But he's the only one performing because
that's what he does. We know that he's capable of doing that. But he's got to a stage in his career now where other people are now ready to come in and do their stuff. He done what he done last season, and he's taken them to where they are now because they needed those goals last season. He's not as important to them now. We can't.
So do you think if he went to Chelsea,
we can't ignore what he's done?
So if he goes to Chelsea, for example, in this window, apparently he was linked. Do you think he would start for them and score goals? Would he be better for them than Aubameyang?
I think. Well, just on Aubameyang, because there's a parallel of what you're both discussing. Aubameyang pretty much lifted the FA Cup for Arsenal on his own. He scored the goals against key opposition to get them to a trophy. I thought they had no chance of winning in that season. And then getting rid of him the following season was ruthless, as I say.
Had to be done.
But in the longer term, now fast forward and having seen the documentary and everything that had happened, the team looked better for it. I think I agree with what you're saying, that Ronaldo is a winner and his mentality is such that he will not... Well, you can exactly. You absolutely cannot question Ronaldo and his his ability on the pitch and B, his desire as well. I just think that it comes to an end for everybody. And it does look as though it's coming to an end precisely because United have finally accepted that if he plays, he can't be a team. And a big part of the reason why I think it's coming to an end is because generally when a big player can't do it in the Premier League, another big team from around Europe takes them. And every big team around Europe said, thank you, but no thank you. And that's quite sad to see.
Do you not think that's to do with salary, though, Darren?
Partly, but the circus,
everything.
I think, because I think some clubs looked at the output at Juventus, which was very good, but then, as you were saying, the output of the rest of the team that went down, and a similar thing happened at Manchester United. And I think, you know, even Bayern, who dominate the league and have done for the last 20 years, and lost Robert Lewandowski, I thought he would be a great fit for them. Oliver Kahn said, look, thank you, but no thank you. Which surprised me in some respects, because they did need a superstar, they did need a serial thriller. But I just think they decided to go someone younger.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they brought him at Juventus to win the Champions League and it kind of backfired. I mean, I'm not saying that you guys are wrong and I'm right. I just love Ronaldo. And it pains
you really
me
love
to say
Ronaldo, but
that,
you really love Ronaldo.
And he's not done. Let's be real. Like, if he leaves and he goes to the MLS or goes somewhere else, he will score goals.
But and I also think that it's as valid to have an emotional reaction to somebody who is a symbol for a lot of people as well. And that's maybe part of the job that he filled for Manchester United last season when everything felt flat and depressing. Ronaldo was there for fans to kind of to cling on to as their light. But you mentioned it, and I think you've both talked about Aubameyang and a similar situation. It's not exactly the same, but a similar situation at Arsenal. And it feels as though there are parallels to be drawn with what Manchester United are doing now with Ten Hag and Ronaldo, and what happened with Arsenal under Arteta with Aubameyang.
Cristiano's never late, though. He's
and young
early.
Players very much trust in the process, even when there are bumps, as there were in the match.
Players, youngest squad in the league. Mikel had to, regardless of what he's doing in respect of scoring, make a decision for the team and the progression of the team and where the team are now to where they were then. And that is what his vision was. He's seeing the team now balanced, working hard, all working for each other. And under Aubameyang, not only could he maybe, if everything what we've seen and what we've heard is right, then he would have disrupted it. I'm not saying Cristiano would disrupt it, because Cristiano is very much about making sure that he's performing at his best. But I admire both of these managers for making the decisions for the necessity of the whole team.
And as much as Leanne's saying, you can't get too carried away, it's 4 wins on the bounce for Manchester United, there's a feel-good factor, it looks as though progress is being made. It's not a time to get carried away. Equally, for Arsenal, or maybe in the opposite sense for Arsenal, is it you don't want to be too despondent about one defeat in this run?
No, I think the Arsenal fans have been very calm about yesterday, because like I say, we went there and I think we controlled it for a long period of time. We know that Man United can play on the break and are very dangerous on the break, and they've got real skillful exponents in respects of counter-attack. Christian Eriksen's first-time balls, Bruno Fernandes's first-time ball, Rashford's pace. You know, that is going to cause any team problems. And if we, like we didn't do yesterday, you're going to close down someone like Bruno Fernandes. If you're not going to get close enough, if Martin Odegaard's not going to get close enough to Eriksen to stop him doing, then you are going to get punished. And that's what they did. Because now we know that Man United have got a set way of playing. Arsenal, with their young team, have got to be more disciplined in what they're doing. When we went to 1-1, thinking, what we're pushing for? Let's calm, let's bring them on, play the ball around, bring Man United onto us, and then bam, we've got the same kind of pace to beat them. And it didn't happen. And that's what Mikel was more worried about. And that's what we've got to learn as a young side.
Also, in a month's time, we're going to be sitting here going, it's a big October for Arsenal. they've got the North London derby, they've got Liverpool, they've got Manchester City, and then Europe
But
starting to come into play as well.
Though, I think, because obviously they haven't had the strongest opposition they've been going against. But the Fulham game, for example, I don't think Arsenal win that last year. You can see the progression that they're making.
With all of these teams that we started, there's no way last season and the way we've been playing, you go into those games confidently, yeah, we're going to get something here and there. Those games, it's a different Arsenal. There's more spirit and drive and fight and intensity. And they've won all of those games, whereas 2 or 3 of those games you lose last season. There's a different mentality, which is brilliant. It's progress.
So nobody's getting too carried away on either side. Not too much cause for concern.